Subscribe to my channel Report Stock.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine getting a shortcut to really understanding a complex topic,
Yeah.
getting all the crucial insights without, sifting through tons of information.
Right. Cutting through the noise.
Exactly. That's what we're doing in this deep dive for you today. We're focusing on Nucana. They're a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company, and they're making some waves in cancer treatment.
Mm.
Our source material here is their latest update, the second quarter 2025 financial results and clinical pipeline stuff. It just came out August 20, 2025. So our mission, basically help you cut through the technical jargon, understand the really important bits about their progress.
Both the science and the financials.
Yeah, the drug development side and their financial health. You should walk away with a pretty clear picture of what's happening at Nucana and, crucially, why it matters. So before we dive into the specific drugs, let's start with the big picture. What's Nucana really all about? What's the core idea behind their approach to fighting cancer?
Sure. So Nucana, they're a clinical stage biopharma company. Like you said, their mission is pretty clear. Significantly improve treatment outcomes for cancer patients.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is their technology. It's called PROTIDE technology.
PROTIDE, okay.
Yeah. They apply this tech to transform widely used chemotherapy agents, things called nucleoside analogs.
Right. Those are pretty standard chemo drugs.
Exactly. Foundational stuff. But they often have limitations.
Yeah.
Nucana uses PROTIDE to turn them into potentially more effective, maybe safer medicines. The whole idea is to overcome the big drawbacks, like, not working well enough or being tough for patients to tolerate.
So making chemo smarter, essentially.
You could put it that way. They're developing these new medicines, the PROTIDEs, and they're designed to generate much, much higher concentrations of the actual anti-cancer stuff directly inside the cancer cells. So you get, hopefully, a more powerful, more targeted punch.
That makes a lot of sense. Improving what we already know works, but making it work better. All right, let's turn to their lead program then. NUC 7738, this is where the latest updates get pretty interesting, right? What makes this one special, and what's the big news?
NUC 7738, yeah. It's described as a novel agent. It seems to do two key things. It profoundly impacts gene expression in the cancer cells themselves.
Okay.
And it also targets multiple aspects of what's called the tumor microenvironment.
Ah, the area around the tumor.
Exactly. The whole ecosystem that can help the tumor thrive.
Yeah.
So this dual action is, well, it's quite significant.
And the news?
The latest update is that the first patients have now been dosed on the expansion part of their ongoing phase 12 study. That's the NuTide.701 study.
Okay.
And this expansion is specifically focused on patients with PD-1 inhibitor-resistant melanoma.
Right. So let's break that down quickly. PD-1 inhibitors, that's a major type of immunotherapy, helps the immune system fight cancer.
Correct.
So these are melanoma patients where even that advanced treatment isn't working anymore.
Exactly. A very difficult to treat group.
In this expansion study, it sounds pretty substantial. They're adding 28 patients.
Yeah, they're aiming to enroll an additional 28, which brings the total planned number treated in combination with pembrolizumab.
Which is a common PD-1 inhibitor.
Right, Keytruda. That brings a total to 40 patients in that combo cohort.
So what are they seeing so far that's got them encouraged enough to expand like this, especially in these tough cases?
Well, they've reported what they call encouraging clinical observations, things like a favorable safety profile, which is always key.
Crucial, yeah.
And also meaningful tumor volume reduction and prolonged progression-free survival.
Wow, okay, so tumor shrinking and patients staying stable longer.
Yes, in patients with PD-1 inhibitor refractory and resistant metastatic melanoma. These are patients who often have very few options left.
So any positive signal there is potentially quite significant.
Extremely significant. Any flicker of hope in that setting is important.
Looking ahead then for NUC 7738, what are the key milestones? What should we be watching for?
So Nucana says they anticipate announcing initial data from this phase 12 expansion.
The melanoma one?
Yes. That data should come in Q4 of this year, 2025.
Okay, end of the year.
Then, looking into 2026, they plan to announce the final data from that study and, importantly, get regulatory guidance from the FDA.
Ah, guidance on the next big step.
Exactly. On the design for a pivotal study for NUC 7738 in melanoma, that conversation with the FDA really sets the stage for the path towards potential approval down the line.
Okay, clear timeline there. Let's shift gears to their second program, NUC 3373. How is this one different, and what's the progress report here?
Right. NUC 3373, this one is a targeted thymulate synthase inhibitor.
Okay, another enzyme target.
Yes, and one that cancer cells really rely on to grow. What's interesting is that it's actually derived from 5-fluorosil, or 5-FU.
Oh, 5-FU, that's a very widely used chemo drug.
Absolutely, a real workhorse. So again, they're taking an established compound and using their PROTIDE technology to create a new chemical entity. They believe it has improved properties, including immune-modulating effects as well.
So another upgrade using PROTIDE. And where is this one being tested?
It's in a phase 1b/2 modular study. They call it NuTide.303.
Modular study, meaning different combinations.
Exactly. They're looking at NUC-3373 combined with pembrolizumab, that PD-1 inhibitor, again for patients with advanced solid tumors.
Okay.
And also NUC-3373 combined with docetaxel, which is another standard chemotherapy specifically for patients with lung cancer.
So testing its potential in different settings, and are they seeing similar encouraging signs like with NUC-7738?
Yes, they've reported similar observations so far, notable tumor volume reductions and prolonged progression-free survival in these patients too.
Okay, so promising signals across the board, it seems. What's the next thing we should expect for NUC-3373?
They've said they look forward to announcing additional data from this phase 1b/2 study, NuTide.303, later this year as well. So more data coming in 2025 for that one too.
Got it. More data points to watch. Now, moving beyond the pipeline, the clinical side. The money side is always critical for biotech, especially clinical stage ones.
Absolutely essential.
And this is where it gets really interesting with Nikana's update. They announced some pretty significant financial moves. What did they do?
Yes, they've definitely shored up their balance sheet. They did it through a financing back in May. And also by strategically using something called an at-the-market offering, or ATM.
An ATM offering. How does that work?
It's basically a way for a company to sell new shares directly into the stock market over time, rather than a single big offering. It gives them flexibility.
Okay, more gradual fundraising.
Right. And it seems to have worked well for them. It signals, some market confidence.
And what's the bottom line impact of these financial moves? What does it mean for their operations?
The crucial outcome is that these moves have extended their cash runway well into 2029.
Into 2029. That's a long runway.
It's a very significant extension.
Yeah.
And they specifically say it takes them through key value-driving milestones.
Meaning through important clinical data readouts and decisions.
Precisely. So far in 2025, these initiatives have raised gross proceeds of $38.4 million. That kind of extended runway gives them enormous stability and flexibility to keep these clinical programs running without, constant immediate pressure.
That's huge for development. Can you give us a quick snapshot of their actual cash position? And were there any other sort of financial housekeeping activities?
Sure. So as of June 30th, 2025, they had 8.4 million cash and equivalents.
Okay, pounds sterling.
Yes. But importantly, after that date, they raised an additional 19.0 million gross through that ATM offering we mentioned.
Ah, so the cash position improved significantly after the quarter ended.
Correct. And another interesting move. On July 21st, they managed to cancel all the remaining Series A warrants from that May financing. They paid about $3.6 million to do that.
Warrants. Those give holders the right to buy shares later, right?
Exactly. So canceling them eliminates what they called overhanging rights. It basically cleans up their capital structure, removes a potential future drag or dilution for shareholders. A pretty savvy move, actually.
Makes sense, tidying things up.
Now, they did report a net loss for the quarter ending June 30th of $24.1 million.
That sounds like a big number.
It does, but you have to put it in context. A large chunk of that, $12.6 million, was actually a non-cash loss related to the revaluation of those warrants we just talked about, the ones they issued in May.
Ah, so an accounting effect, not operational spending.
Largely, yes. And the rest reflects their heavy investment in R&D, which is completely normal, even expected, for a clinical stage company that isn't selling products yet.
Right, you have to spend money to develop these drugs. Okay, that clarifies the loss figure. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, listening in, trying to stay informed about medical science breakthroughs? We've seen Nucana making seemingly significant strides, NUC-7738 in tough-to-treat melanoma.
Showing promise there.
And NUC-3373 in other solid tumors, both showing encouraging early signs based on this idea of enhancing existing chemotherapy.
Right, the PROTIDE platform in action.
And at the same time, they've really solidified their finances, haven't they? Extending that runway out to 2029. That's critical for actually getting these drugs through the pipeline.
Absolutely. This deep dive really shows a company that's, balancing these ambitious clinical programs with some very strategic financial management. Which leads to a kind of interesting question, I think.
Go on.
Well, given these early encouraging clinical signals and now this much stronger financial footing, how might Nucana's whole ProTide platform actually impact the treatment landscape, especially for these really challenging cancers in the next few years?
Yeah, good question.
And maybe, what implications does their approach this idea of upgrading existing known drugs? What does that mean for the wider biopharma sector, where discovering completely novel drugs often gets most of the attention?
That's definitely something to think about as you reflect on this deep dive. Food for thought. Thank you for joining us for this dive into Nucana's latest progress.
Subscribe to my channel Report Stock.